Perfect. Welcome. This is our soccer video class, and tonight we're going to be talking about how to capture game film if your team does not record games. And oftentimes, when we work with families here at NCSA, video, one is one of the most time-consuming parts of the process, and two, some of the most difficult parts of the process. And if you're in a program or a position where there's not actual consistent game film coming in, it can be even more challenging, but not impossible. And we're going to be here tonight to kind of talk about some of those key things that can help you capture some film that we can use as a way to help promote you to college coaches. Because video is the first thing coaches look for on our platform, and one of the things that we want athletes to showcase their skill set with. And so I do want to give people a minute or two to get into the room tonight. So if you could just introduce yourself in the chat box, tell me your name, tell me your grad year. You should see a little red bubble pop up on the screen, and I'll put my information in there as well. Again, Brittany Jones. I'm the group recruiting coach here at NCSA, so I work with elite soccer families, but I also lead a lot of our soccer content curriculum. You'll have to forgive me tonight for my voice. I thought I was being a good adult and got my flu shot today, and now I'm feeling a little under the weather. So if you see me pause for some water throughout, that's what's going on. But welcome tonight. I see many of you are in the chat box. Welcome, Gavin Thomas, Bailey, Edwin, Mohammed, Jonah. A year. I probably said your name completely wrong. Apologies for that. And if you're just jumping in the room, this is our soccer video class, and we're going to be talking tonight about how to capture game film if your team doesn't naturally record. We're just taking a minute, introducing ourselves in the chat box before we really get going. Jalen. Yeah, but I see there's a lot of seniors in here tonight, which is great, right? The older we are, the less time we have in recruiting. So the more important it is that we capture film. Right. And I want to make it clear too, game film's the ideal for coaches, but we can definitely use training footage. We can use individual skills film if we don't have any other options. And we'll talk through that a little bit more tonight as well. This class is all about you. So please feel free to utilize the chat box to ask questions. The Q&A feature in the webinar is also live, so that is something that you can see. Feel free to ask during the run of class. There's always at the end a time for Q&A, so I'm happy to stay and chat with you after. But let's jump into this. For those of you unfamiliar with me, again, my name is Brittany Jones. I'm the group recruiting coach here at NCSA. Was very fortunate to coach at the Division One at the college level for 18 years, 8 years at the Division One level, 5 years at the head of a program at Division Two level, and then 5 years I had the opportunity to build a program at Daytona State. And so really enjoyed my time in the college world. Really only left it because my family and I relocated from Florida to Atlanta, and that's what brings me to NCSA. So now I spend time helping educate families on navigating the recruiting process, but also still work as a coach educator, so coaching coaches now and still working with players as well. So looking forward to spending some time with you tonight. We'll be looking at a couple different things tonight. We're going to touch base on timelines. It's important for you to recognize where coaches are in the recruiting process so that you know what you should be doing. We'll talk about the importance of video and kind of really break that down for you, what coaches are looking for, how they evaluate. We'll look a little bit at position in terms of where on the field we want to film from. We'll actually have a chance to kind of look at a film, and I'll break it down for you on things that you can do. And then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. All right. So as a reminder, recruiting timelines, we are right now in the fall season for college coaches. And that fall season essentially runs from August to early November. It is the slowest recruiting time. So it is a great time to work on video. Okay. And it's slow because the coaches are focused on their teams. They're not necessarily focused on communicating as much with athletes as they will be going into the winter season, which will be November, basically to February, and the spring season, all right, March, April, May, and then the summer, June, July, early part of August. And so recruiting's slow now, but it will certainly pick up. The older we are, the less time we have to find a place to play, and the more likely we are to have back and forth dialogue with coaches. So as a freshman and a sophomore, we see players getting a lot more evaluations. As a junior and a senior, we see evaluations, but we also see back and forth communications once coaches identify players that fit their recruiting needs. Now, Use in the chat box for me. Tell me why it's important for you to have a quality highlight video. Yeah, and I've got some good answers here in the chat box so coaches can see our skill set, so coaches can gain insight into our skills, but also the style of our team, maybe the style of our training, see our work ethic. Yeah, guys, and remember, like when coaches are evaluating athletes, right, the big thing that they're looking to do is they cannot tell you that they want you to be a part of their team or they want to learn more about you until they see you play. And so being evaluated, having coaches see you play and evaluate your skill set is the first part of the recruiting process. And there are a lot of ways for coaches to evaluate you, right? They can come to your training sessions, they can come to your games, they can see you play in film, they can watch full games, they can watch highlights, they can see you at camps. Right. But the big thing is being evaluated, having your skill set seen is the first step. We need coaches to evaluate us, right? The more coaches that evaluate you, the more opportunities that open for you. And so when we look at recruiting, it is important for us to recognize that recruiting is half about your ability. So what is the skill set that they see, and half about the opportunities available in a program? What skills and positions do coaches need in a grad class? All right, but we need coaches to look at us to determine if we're a good fit for them. And once coaches see an athlete play and that skill set fits their recruiting need, right? That's when they're going to start building relationships as long as they can, right? So meaning by rules. So the older we are, the more likely to get back and forth dialogue, right? Now the key is we can use videos as a way to open the door to conversation. And highlight videos are usually the first thing coaches want to see if they're not seeing you play in person, because it's going to be a short compilation of you in your ideal position. Okay. And when coaches are evaluating you on the field, they're actually evaluating four different areas, right? Number one, they're going to look at your physical qualities. What athletic qualities do you have? Right. So what's your speed? What's your quickness? What's your acceleration? What's your strength? What's your power? Your raw athletic ability physically. Okay. The physical characteristics of a wide forward are going to be very different to the physical characteristics of a defensive center midfielder. And all of us in this class are going to have physical characteristics that fit into the positions that we play. They're also going to look at your technical ability. So your ability to manipulate the ball, control the ball, pass the ball, dribble the ball, receive the ball, right? How comfortable are you in possession? They're going to look at your tactical ability. So that's all your decision makings, right? So where do you position yourself in support of the ball or in defensive moments? Where do you make runs, right? How do you take up covering positions, first defender positions? So what decisions and how well do you read the game? And they're also going to be evaluating you psychologically. How do you respond to the game? If your team goes down a goal, what do you do? Right? If you make a mistake, what do you do? But how do you communicate with your teammates? What's your emotional control? Right? When coaches are watching you play, they can evaluate all of these things based upon what environments the game presents. And that's why game film is the ideal for college coaches, because they can see you in an unstructured environment, having to read the game, respond to the game, and problem solve in the moment. Okay, so those are all the different areas that they're going to be evaluating you on. And so when you look at the importance of a highlight video, it really is opening the door to asking coaches to evaluate you in a way that allows them to decide, is this a player I want to learn more about? So tell me in the chat box, which of these qualities, right, is your strength that you would want to showcase most in your games? Yeah, and I'm seeing some good answers come in, and I'll talk about my experience as a player. So as a player, I was very good tactically and I was very good technically. I was average athletically. Right? I played as a defensive midfielder, center back, right? And wasn't overly fast. So when I think about, and this is important for you guys to know because if I was going to make myself a highlight video to share with college coaches, I want to highlight my strengths. And that's going to be my technical ability, my tactical ability, right? And I'm going to downplay maybe things that I'm not so good at, like maybe my speed, things along those lines. I need to be able to showcase that. And this is important for you to notice as you're capturing film and as you're starting to begin getting film, is we want to notice those key moments where we do things that we're good at. So my distribution was very good. So can I, after games, remember like there's moments in this game where I had some excellent distribution. So if we can start thinking about what we're good at, it's going to help us identify moments we want to include in our highlight video as we're starting to capture games. Okay. When we think about capturing game film, we also need to think about what parts of the field am I going to be in to showcase those skills. Okay, so I'm a center defender or a central midfielder. When I look at the field, I'm probably going to be most often in these three center channels that you see I have on the field. So that's where most of my highlight video is going to take place, right? Because that's where I play most of the time in the game. If I'm a wide forward, depending on the side of the field I play on, I'm probably going to be in a wide channel, a wide central channel, maybe a center channel, depends on how your team plays. But these are going to be probably the 2 to 3 channels that most of my highlight video is going to be in. Okay, attacking wise, it would be on the attacking goal. Defensively, it might be in the middle third to the defensive third, right? But that also tells you when you're thinking about creating your own film or capturing your own film, if I'm this wide player, I'm going to probably try and get most of my film captured on the side of the field that I'm on, right? Yes, we want to see the far side too, but it's going to be easier if I'm doing it to be on the side of the field I'm at. So we also want to be aware of where does my position play and what parts of the field am I going to be able to showcase my ability best. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. When we're looking at a filming strategy, right, it's important that we recognize that the ideal for us to gather is game film. Because it's unstructured, because it's unpredictable, coaches get an honest evaluation of how well you read the game, how well you problem solve technically and tactically, and then how you respond to it. However, if we cannot get game footage for whatever reason, we can use training footage. The ideal there would be a scrimmage with your team or against the team in your club or the other high school. But we can also use individual footage as needed. One of my resources I'll share with you after is how to record a training film. But film is important for us, as we've seen. Okay. It's also important to know that as we're deciding that we're going to capture our own games, the level of games is also important because it affects how coaches evaluate players. It is hard to evaluate games where one team is really good and one team is really poor. So if you have the option to pick which games are going to be more competitive, always try to record your most competitive games. If you don't, if you just play in a league where your team's really dominant, right, or there's not a lot of even games or competitive games, get the best film you can. But realistically, the more competitive the games, the easier it is for coaches to evaluate. Okay. It's also worth noting that if you have a tournament where you might have 2 to 3 games like back to back to back, that can be a really good time to record because that allows us to get multiple games in a short period of time. Okay, and from like a logistics standpoint, we might be able to use the same camera, we might be able to get other people to help us, but we can get 3 games to kind of shift through to create that highlight video for you, right? Generally, our video team will use 2 to 3 full games for one highlight, right? Or if you have little clips, they're looking to put together a 2 to 5 minute film of you. So we would need enough clips for that 2 to 5 minutes. Highly encourage you as you're undertaking this to get your soccer success team on board. Talk to coaches, talk to team managers, talk to other players, and let them know, hey, I'm really trying to record our games, right? Is anyone else interested? Can we get organized together? Can we all help and do this in different ways? The more people you have helping you, the better, right? If coach knows that we're trying to record, that he might also be able to say, hey, coach, like, this is where we're going to play you today. So that way your parents or whoever's going to be recording can actually stay on the side of the field where you're going to be at. So communicate that you're trying to capture film to utilize playing at the college level, right? So this is all like pre actually doing anything. Okay, because that's important for us to know more than one person on your team probably wants to record the game. So if you can come together, it's probably going to help. And coaches can also be a really good resource for that as well. Okay. When we look at equipment to use, right, one of the big things to note is you can use a cell phone. I've seen some decent highlight videos with cell phones. Okay, the challenge with cell phones often comes down to a couple things. One is where are you recording from? Two is how much storage do you have on your phone? And three is going to be the steadiness of the camera. Okay, so when I talk to our video team here at NCSA, their recommendation actually is try to use your cell phone. Most of the cell phone cameras are actually very strong, right? They say a lot of people run into data issues or storage issues on their phone if they're trying to record a whole game. So they do recommend either uploading it into like a Google Drive, right? Or potentially looking into like maybe a YouTube platform where you can actually store it and record it directly to YouTube so it doesn't necessarily use all of your storage. You can use camcorders, you can use DSLR cameras if you have access to them. Right, I found out the other day that a lot of high schools will actually have camcorders and DSLR cameras on staff for yearbook, for other things. That could be an avenue to kind of explore if you don't have access to it or if your teams have access to it. And then, of course, there's GoPros. There's VeoGo, which is a new platform by Veo that uses a cell phone to record, right? But realistically, you guys can record a game using your cell phone. Okay, so it's something to kind of explore. Also, tripods are a must. We need the camera to be stationary. It is easier to evaluate players if the camera is not moving or shaking. The moment the camera starts to do this, it's just a natural part of our eyes are going to start to do this, and we can't necessarily trust what we're evaluating, or we're not evaluating accurately. Okay. They do sell tripods that have cell phone attachments. So they're usually relatively cheap on Amazon. You can just attach your cell phone to it. Some of them even extend slightly to give you the elevation, which is definitely going to be something that we would like to get in our filming stance. But the key thing to look at is also going to be the storage. How can we store the film either post filming, uploading it to Google Drive, or during filming, potentially stream to a YouTube or maybe another platform like that, right? So we've got a camera. We definitely want to get a tripod. We definitely need to sort out storage. Okay, those are going to be the biggest things logistically when it comes to equipment. Right, and know this as well, if you are recording a game and you can only get 30 minutes, 30 minutes is better than 90 minutes or better than no minutes. So if you're like, okay, I only can store 30 minutes on my phone, just get your 30 minutes, see what happens in that game. We can always cut it down, you can always delete it, you can always move it to a Google Drive and then do another 30 minutes, right? We're just trying to problem solve for not having film. If you choose to store in a Google Drive, the nice thing about that is you can actually just share the Google Drive with our video team, and they can use that to create the highlight for you. Okay, so it's just a habit to kind of get into to make things easier for you. So that's equipment. When we look at filming best practices, filming location is important. Number one, we definitely want to be able to see the far side of the field. So if I'm a right forward, the ideal is that you're recording from the right side because then I'm going to be in the forefront of the video, but I still want to be able to see the far side of the field because as a coach, I'm evaluating the player with the ball, but I'm also evaluating all of the other players around the ball and the space and what decisions you make. And I can only evaluate that if I can see more of the field, right? And in general, our video team recommends that we have a third of the field in the camera, right? And so if you divide the field into like attacking third, middle third, defensive third, we'd want to keep a third of the field in the camera. So that way we can see what's the player doing with the ball and what's everybody doing without the ball. If we can get elevated, even better, it makes it easier to see the far side of the field. If you can't, you can still film from ground level. We can't see the far side of the field as well, but it could still be usable film depending upon if you're on the same side as the player you're recording. But the ideal is elevation, even if it's just being in a bleacher on like a high school stadium or a slight rise at a club field, that allows us to see the other side of the field easier and it has better spacing on the camera. Try not to zoom in just on the player. Again, we're trying to see everybody around the ball and what decisions they make, right? The more we can do that and keep it somewhat consistent and just pan as we're filming, the easier. We don't really want to see zoom in and out. We'd rather just see it stick at a zoom, pan back and forth. but very slowly. The tripods will help keep that steady. Right? And again, database of film is going to allow us to share that a little bit easier with our filming practice. So essentially, can we get elevated? Can we keep a third of the field in there? Can you film on the same side as the athlete? And if they're in the middle, doesn't really matter where you film from. If they're on the wings or on the flanks, we definitely want to film on the side that our athlete is on. The other big thing to note is if you can mute the microphone on your camera and block out all the noise around you, that helps. If you can't, our video team can actually put music over the audio. That's something that we can help with as we create highlights. But we definitely want to make sure that we're aware of what's the environment we're filming. So if we can sit in a quieter space, just makes it easier for us to focus, but also makes it better film in general. Okay. And finally, if we're struggling, so if we're trying to film these games and we're struggling, there are some other ways for us to problem solve, right? Number one, I've had some families have success if they're asking their opponents to share their game film. So if you're playing a team, they're recording, right? They may be able to share that film with you for free, right? And they may be able to let you download that. And so now you have film that you can use. Some showcases or ID camps will actually film you and create highlights for you as an additional cost. That's something that you could explore. And if finally, if nothing else works, we can use training footage. That can be individual training footage, that could be scrimmages, right? But ideally, we want film on your profile so coaches can evaluate your ability. Okay. If you run into camera issues, if your phone doesn't have a great camera, if it doesn't have enough data, enough storage, there are ways to trouble and problem solve cameras. High schools generally do have them for various activities. You could ask to rent that, right? You also could also see if your coaches have contacts at clubs where you could borrow a camera for a weekend. I've had some families do that, right? And same thing, like, is there a stadium with the football team uses Huddle or something? Can you turn that on for a training session? I've had families do that too. So we need to think outside the box to try and get us film because film is going to be one of the key things that really helps us stand out to coaches. Okay. Now let me do this. I'm going to pull up one video here for us to watch. While I'm doing that, please in the chat box put any questions that you have so I can answer them as we get to the end. But give me a second to pull up these films. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna do this film for, let me see these questions really quick. So the two questions on training, I'll actually answer those toward the end. The question on 7-a-side games or 11-a-side games, either one will work. The ideal is 11-a-side because that gives coaches the dimensions that they're going to evaluate you in on their college team. But if you only have sevens or if you're playing indoor because of where you are in the world, definitely use those. That's not an issue at all. Okay. And then the other two I'll answer at the end. All right, somebody in the chat box give me a thumbs up or a yes if you can see the video. Okay, perfect. All right, so a couple things to note here. What you're seeing on the screen, this film is filmed at elevation, so they're above the field. We can tell that because of the fact that we can see the other side fairly easily. The lower you to the ground you are, the flatter everything looks. Other thing I want to point out for you is that we're looking at the middle third of the field. Okay, so they've kept the third of the field in here. The blue team is going this way, so that would be their attacking third up here by this goal, their defensive third down here. We can see the player with the ball is in the frame, which we definitely want to see. This film is actually evaluating this forward, the center forward. And so what you're looking at here and what we're evaluating as a coach is as this player receives the ball and comes forward, where does this player move to? And let's play this and see what we've got. Okay, and so now you can see the panning. It pans slowly, right? We can see the players in the corner in a 1v1 moment. Now there's some challenges here. We do well to get the player in the frame to have that 1v1 moment. We see him beat. We have no idea where the goal is. Okay, we have no idea what the players in front of the goal are doing. So from an evaluation standpoint, I can see he's athletic, I can see he's technical, but I cannot see his final decision making, right? And that's challenging. It looks like it goes in the goal, but because of the angle of the camera, I can't evaluate if he made the right decision. So yes, they scored, but we want to try and zoom out a little bit there. So as it got to be well, actually, as it gets to be in this space, the ideal is that we can also see the goal here, because then I can see the runs coming into the box. Might not have been possible with the phone they're using or the camera they're using. Might have just got caught up watching and didn't move the camera. Either way, that's the ideal, is that we see the goal before the pass is played. Okay, the arrows and things, we can do that for you as part of the video, or you can also do that yourself if you're using some of the video cutting. Again, this is slightly elevated, not as high as the other game, because you can see the angle's a little bit flat, but again, we still have a third of the field on the camera. We can see the support players around him. We can see him with the ball. And then on this one, because we see the goal and the players, we see the right decision. This is the same angle as the first clip. So a little bit higher, you can see that we can see the other side. We have pretty much a half in the field, which is fine. We can still see individual players. We know which player we're watching, right? The bench gets a little bit in the way, but we can see that he beats this player. And now the angle is much better in this one because we can see the goal and we can see his decision making. Challenge there is the clip cuts off before we actually see if they score. So that will be the ideal, is that we actually see, do they score? Do they save it? Does he miss the goal? Because that player created that opportunity. And again, here's another clip. This one's from a bleacher on a touchline. It's not quite as high as the last one, but we can still see the other side of the goal. Looks like we're evaluating this player here on the wing. We can see the goal. We can see this teammate here, 2, 3, 4, 5 teammates. And it's a good finish. And I had the completely wrong team there. So let me see here. All right, so there we are. We're evaluating this player, the center forward. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. Ball's a misclearance, but he sets himself and it's a good finish. This is a high school game with a high elevated camera angle. We can see the field much better and all the players around him moving. So it's easier to evaluate when it's this high, not always realistic when you're doing it yourself. Okay, but again, we got about a third of the field or half of the field. Just enough to be able to tell which player is which. We don't need to zoom in. So on this one, we're watching this player. Right, and again, that one cuts off. So realistically, I only wanted to show you a short one tonight because you can see all the different angles. Like this one's a little bit flatter. You had some really high ones, right? Most of them you can see, this is probably one of the most zoomed in clips we've seen. So we can't actually see the goal. We can only see a few, probably like 10 yards here, 15 yards here, 8 yards there, right? So we're only seeing about 20, 25 yards max on the field. We don't know where the goal is until they slightly zoom out here. So just wanted to give you some ideas. Let me actually pull up some of these questions here. All right, the first question in the chat box is going to be, as a midfielder, are there specific drills that I should do while recording individual training? All right, so basically, as a midfielder, the key skills we want to see from you, if you're a defensive midfielder, is range of distribution. So receiving balls out of the air and playing quickly over different distances. So receive it, connect to a target 20 yards away, 25 yards away, 30 yards away, 40 yards away, longer passes with both feet with different surfaces. Definitely want to see you receive the ball with different surfaces. You can certainly look on YouTube, there'll be a bunch of them. But we're looking at distribution, receiving balls out of the air. If you have friends, maybe some 1v1 defending if you're a defensive midfielder, right? Those are going to be things. If you're an attacking midfielder, dribble penetration, ability to finish, ability to create. Your vision will be showcased easier in game film, but your technical ability to beat players will be showcased well in individual film. And again, distribution. Goalkeepers, highly recommend that you film a goalkeeper training session. Okay, goalkeepers are a challenge because you only can present in game films what the other team does. So if they only attack down the right flank, that entire game film, you're only going to see services from the right flank. And so goalkeeper training is a great way for you to showcase all your technical ability in a short period of time. I ran a class on that, so I'll include that in my follow-up. I'll include a lot of different videos by position in my follow-up, so you guys can watch those for training films as well. All right, let's do this. In the chat box, I just put my one question survey. If you could fill it out for me, I greatly appreciate it. Once you're finished, please type down in the chat box. And if you have any other questions, throw those in there for me as well. All right. So as you're working on that survey, please know it's appreciated. There'll be some follow-up from me tomorrow, so I'll send you a recording of this class. I'm also going to send you some past recordings of my soccer video classes. So like video for forwards, video for midfielders, video for defenders, how to make a training video. So that'll come in as a resource, so feel free to watch those. Big thing, guys, just start recording. Start recording something that you have. We can always adjust it later, but the sooner we get film up, the better. We can give you some guidance on it as well. That's also going to help, right? So once you have video on your profile, MVP members, you have unlimited one-on-one sessions. Jump in there with your coach and talk about it. Elite, you have two of them, so jump in there and get some guidance on it. We can help you with that. Video is going to definitely help extend the reach you have with college coaches. If you don't have questions, feel free to go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Know that I appreciate your time. I know it's getting late for some of you. If you do, the Q&A is open as well as the chat box. Throw them in there. Happy to help. Appreciate your time tonight. You're welcome. Yeah, and so the question is, are rec games good to film? If that's the only games you have, yeah. If that's where you're playing, then yeah, we'll definitely use it. If you have more competitive games, use those first, but if not, use what we got. Yeah, you're welcome. I see many of you heading out. Enjoy your night. All right, everyone. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions tonight. So look for my follow-up tomorrow. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm going to shut the room. Have a great night.